Ever heard of Mortal Kombat? Well, you probably have, and if so, then you know that it's known for its blood and gruesome attacks, and probably also know about a handful of its most popular characters, including Raiden, Liu Kang, and some of the ninjas, including Scorpion and Sub-Zero. These two are some of the most popular characters in the franchise, and are very popular in fighting games and in video game history itself. So powerful is the name of Mortal Kombat and Sub-Zero in particular that one has to wonder if people know more about Sub-Zero than the English meaning of the phrase Sub-Zero, which means to exist at a temperature below 0 degrees on either the Fahrenheit or Celsius scales. Maybe, right? Considering that Sub-Zero is not a phrase heard often in daily life. Well, maybe not. It's probably not likely that more people know about the Mortal Kombat character Scorpion as opposed to real-world animals Scorpions either. But that doesn't mean Sub-Zero isn't an immensely popular character. Sub-Zero is known for wearing blue, freezing people, and utilizing a variety of ice-themed attacks against his opponents, when he's not doing more gruesome things to them such as ripping out their spine. In this video, we'll be reviewing Sub-Zero's most iconic attack, the Ice Ball. He uses this attack to freeze his opponents. It functions as a projectile, and when it connects with an opponent who isn't guarding, they are immobilized for a period of time, the duration of which depends on the game. One might think that the ability to freeze opponents in place could be overpowering for a character, but opponents have access to a variety of defensive maneuvers to help them avoid being frozen. In the first Mortal Kombat game, Sub-Zero's Ice Ball resembles the Hadouken from Street Fighter and doesn't cause damage when an opponent is frozen, a property consistent with all future games as well. The point is to follow up the opponent's immobilization with an attack. It passes through other characters' projectiles as well. Not that this should encourage you from firing the Ice Ball at the same time as an opponent, as if you and your opponent both fire a projectile at the same time, both of you will be hit by each other's attacks. In Mortal Kombat 2, his Ice Ball looks more like a series of ice darts, and even his fighting stance is different. Perhaps it is meant to reflect that this is a new character using the Sub-Zero name, rather than the fighter we saw in the first Mortal Kombat title. In any case, it carries the same attack properties as the first game. In Mortal Kombat 3, the Ice Ball attack looks different compared to how it was depicted in Mortal Kombat 2. The projectile is darker, and the blizzard itself looks to be composed of thicker ice darts. When we see the Ice Ball in the franchise's transition into 3D in Mortal Kombat 4, we notice that the Ice Ball once again resembles a traditional fighting game fireball followed by a cloud of ice dust, translucent so as to reflect it being an ice-themed attack. The Ice Ball of Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance is smaller than in previous games. Also of note is the fact that Sub-Zero's stance has changed when firing the Ice Ball. In the past, and even in the first Mortal Kombat game when Sub-Zero was a name assumed by another character altogether, Sub-Zero knelt to fire the Ice Ball. But in Deadly Alliance, Sub-Zero directs his upper body forward and sort of pushes an ice ball from the palm of his hands, with the two arms placed side by side and one arm reaching further than the other. Mortal Kombat Deception more or less adheres to the new ideas for the Ice Ball introduced by its predecessor, with the Ice Ball resemblance being basically the same. In Mortal Kombat Armageddon, Sub-Zero's leading arm when he fires the Ice Ball is now different, but the Ice Ball itself looks the same as it did in the past two games. Mortal Kombat 2011 is the first Mortal Kombat game to be developed by NetherRealm Studios, and with that we see a new look for Sub-Zero and the Ice Ball. Sub-Zero now fires ice balls in a stance that resembles the Shotokan fighters throwing a fireball from Street Fighter, an idea carried over from the Midway Games developed Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. Following the frigid ice burst that makes its way to its opponents are shards of ice that encircle it. Mortal Kombat 2011 also features Cyber Sub-Zero, and this version of Sub-Zero fires ice balls by opening his chest and shooting them, as you see from other cyborg warriors such as Cyrax and Sector. In Mortal Kombat 10, Sub-Zero now throws ice balls with only one arm, pausing for a moment to charge the burst in one hand before he throws the projectile at an opponent. The projectile design here seems to emphasize it being a burst of cold air more than it did in previous games, especially notable once the projectile makes contact with an opponent. And in Mortal Kombat 11, Sub-Zero now charges his ice ball using two hands instead of one hand, though he still uses only one hand to throw the projectile. Sub-Zero also incorporates the Ice Ball and freezing abilities into his fatalities throughout the Mortal Kombat franchise. In the first Mortal Kombat, his fatality involves him freezing his opponent, then landing a punch to his head, which shatters them. In Mortal Kombat 2, Sub-Zero has a fatality in which, after freezing his opponent, he lobs a different type of ice ball at his opponent that causes their body to explode. The Ice Ball isn't seen again in his fatalities until Mortal Kombat 4, in which he freezes opponents with an ice laser, then he uppercuts their body, causing their frozen corpse pieces to fly all over the place. In Mortal Kombat Deception, Sub-Zero has a fatality in which, after freezing his opponent with an ice laser, he tears off their head and slides backwards to ready himself to throw the severed head at the opponent's frozen body, shattering the opponent upon contact. Another fatality from this game features Sub-Zero freezing the opponent's lower half and then sweep kicking it into oblivion. While the remaining upper half pleads for mercy, Sub-Zero pursues and stomps their face in. Mortal Kombat 2011 features some gruesome fatalities for Sub-Zero. One such fatality involves him freezing his opponent's lower half and yanking the unfrozen half away from the rest of the body. His other fatality involves him ripping out his opponent's spine, freezing them, and then smashing the remaining standing body with their spine. Mortal Kombat 10 ups the ante by having Sub-Zero create a pit of ice spikes, kicking his opponent into them and then stomping on their body, all the while avoiding the spikes himself, not bad, and then pushing their body further into the spikes for emphasis. There's also another fatality in which Sub-Zero freezes the opponent's midsection, punches a hole through it, leaving the spine intact before he can snap it apart, and then gripping both ends of the spine and pulling his opponent's body away from itself with such force that their body is torn apart. And in Mortal Kombat 11, a game that already features several very gruesome fatalities, Sub-Zero still manages to stand out. One fatality sees him freezing his opponent, chopping off their head with an ice axe, and then picking up the head, freezing it before punching it into shards. His other fatality involves him creating an ice clone that is holding a spear, and sliding into the opponent in such a way that once their body falls after Sub-Zero collides with his opponent, their abdomen is skewered through the spear. Then Sub-Zero tears out the opponent's spine and head, a favorite pastime of his, and then throws the head end of what he tore out from the opponent onto the spear, in such a way that one of the eyes pops out of the head. And that about does it for this video on Sub-Zero and the Ice Ball, also incorporating a handful of his very brutal fatalities. For someone whose moveset may seem one note, Sub-Zero has a handful of some very cool and ugly fatalities, definitely doing honor to the esteemed reputation that Mortal Kombat has for blood and gore. Tell us about your favorite Sub-Zero fatality in the comment section below, and also tell us what you think about Sub-Zero as a character in general. As always, thanks for watching. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.